brother. Harry Potter Week continues, Ben, and for all you Hufflepuffs out there, I've got some very interesting findings. My findings indicate that the favorite book, after pooling all the answers from yesterday's video, is The Prisoner of Azkaban, which is interesting because it's probably in my bottom too. My personal favorite was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and Ben, I'd love to know what you thought of that book. What did you think of the Deathly Hallows, Ben? I'd love to know. Deathly Hallows, Ben, what did you think? What did you think of the Deathly Hallows? You know what one of my favorite things about Harry Potter is that wasn't really in the Deathly Hallows though, Ben? Quidditch. I love when the books get to a good Quidditch game. I have noticed a few concerns in the many Quidditch games throughout the books though. My first concern is there actually aren't that many Quidditch games. Let's do the math real quick. Gryffindor has to play Hufflepuff, play Ravenclaw, and lose to Slytherin, of course. Slytherin then has to crush Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, and that means Ravenclaw just has to play Hufflepuff for a grand total of 6 games. The whole season is 6 games. That means only 3 games per team. You'd think they'd at least play each other twice, right? I mean, why are they practicing for hours and hours every single week if they're only gonna end up playing 3 games? Also, why does Harry, who has a lot of stock in the outcomes of the other games, never seem to go to any of the other games? When Gryffindor plays, it seems like the whole school is out there, but you never hear about them going to the Hufflepuff Slytherin game. I mean, I don't even know if I would call it a game, but you'd think he'd still be interested. Slytherin! And does it bother anyone else that they come in muddy from these practices? Where is the mud coming from? Isn't the game up in the air? Why are they on the ground? And that's not even getting into the mechanics of the game. So let's get into the mechanics of the game. First, let's talk about bludgers. Now, I don't know if these are supposed to be more like softballs or something, but the way the book describes them and the way they're portrayed in the movies, it's more like they're like cannonballs or shot puts or something. And while I'm sure that's very exciting at a professional level, the fact is you could have potentially 11-year-old kids out there flying around with cannonballs. I mean, I think the lightest shot put is 8 pounds, but even if you got Mark McGuire out there on extra steroids with his biggest bat, I bet he couldn't move a moving shot put very far through the air with both hands. And yet we're supposed to believe that the 13-year-old Weasley brothers can whip those bludgers around the entire Quidditch pitch with a one-handed wooden bat? Doesn't add up. Next, let's talk about brooms. Harry, I love you, but it is not fair for you to be flying around on that firebolt. I mean, people are out there on those clean sweeps. You have a clearly superior broom, which gives you a clear advantage. And that's not, like, sportsmanlike at all. Shouldn't there be like a standard or a limitation on the broom you're able to use so that it's like a level playing field? To me, it seems like the same as using steroids or something. It's giving you a competitive advantage, and the only competitive advantage you should be allowed to have in sports is just your natural ability. And why are they wearing robes on the Quidditch pitch? How many times do we have to hear about how streamlined and aerodynamic and perfect each individual thistle on the broom is for the firebolt, and then they go out there and wear robes? Yeah. That's aerodynamic. And finally, let's talk about the Snitch. As we all know, when the Seeker catches the Snitch, he earns his team an extra 150 points and ends the game. Ends the game. That's the part that doesn't make sense. Why would you ever catch it if you weren't gonna win the game? So you wouldn't lose by as much? That would make sense if the points mattered outside of the game, like if in the tournament bracket the amount of points you scored per game made a difference. But in that scenario, wins and losses would count for nothing. It would just be how many points you could score over the course of a season, right? Like, imagine you lost every game 300 to 290 and the rest of the league is finishing games at like 200 to 180. That means you could lose every game with 290 points and potentially still be ahead of everyone points-wise. That means if the 2 bottom teams in the league were playing, they could just mutually agree to run the score up as high as they wanted to get back into first place, and it doesn't matter who wins then. But if that's how it works, then I guess that's just how it works. But it still doesn't explain Victor Crumb catching the frickin' Snitch in the World Cup. At that point, your point total wouldn't matter anymore. This is the last game. The wins and losses do actually matter. So saying that your chasers are just never going to catch up to Ireland, who cares? You'd let them try as long as humanly possible. It's the frickin' World Cup. So Ben, my question for you and everyone else is, what position would you play on the Quidditch field? Let me know down in the towel section below, and I will see you in another life, brother.